Good afternoon. There's this phrase that I feel like I grew up with in my Buddhist, education. The most important thing is to know that everything is functioning together to create this moment. Or everything is functioning together to make this moment possible. Suzuki Roshi sent his student Richard Baker to Japan for some years to study there, and he had a teacher there, Yamada Mumon Roshi, who later when I studied with Baker Roshi, Baker Roshi kept repeating, Yamada Mumon Roshi said, the most important thing is to know that everything is functioning together to create this moment. I just want to unpack that a little bit with you, bit by bit. This moment, I think when most people, some of you, hear this moment, you probably think a unit of time. Short unit of time. How long or short is a moment? I was a swimmer, as a teenager. I was competing. Never very good, but anyway. I spent a lot of time in the pool. A moment when you race in swimming, it could be like just hundredths of a second, right? It's like a hand touching the edge of the pool, and then the other hand touches, and that's the difference between being a champion and a loser. This is a moment. But I think we need to, could try on a spatial understanding of a moment, of this moment. And last Saturday, some of you heard me speak, I suggested that we commit to here. And I said that you can understand here in contradistinction to there, here, and over there. But if you take this contradistinction away, then here is a rather flexible concept. It's like it's here, and then it's this room, and then it's Boulder and Colorado and the United States and the world and the entire universe. If you take the distinction away between here and there, then here becomes infinite. Is that too philosophical, or does that make sense? I think it's obvious. We put some limit around here and then shrink it to get rid of the infinity. So we can handle the here. Now, I know practically speaking that is useful, and we use it all the time. This moment is an infinite space, not a unit of time. In the Middle Ages, they had this concept of a standing now, and this has always been very interesting to me. It's like the now doesn't go anywhere. It's always now, right? It's not going away. When you think about time, it's usually like time flows from past to future, and there's short units of time and succession. But experientially, when you locate yourself here and now, the now doesn't go anywhere. It's always this here that we're experiencing. And yet, through this standing now, change flows and weaves all the time. If we could commit to here, this moment, and didn't try to avoid, some of the change that's coming, it's like, no, or go against it, or manipulate it, then it's just change unfolding in a standing here now in infinite space, and we are completely part of it. So, to know that everything is functioning together to create this moment, this here. Everything. I mean, on the face of it, everything is just, all things. Nothing is left out. Nothing is excluded. This to say nothing is excluded is really nothing is excluded from everything. It's a very strange sentence because it's true. One reading would be no particular thing is excluded from everything. But to say nothing is excluded from everything could read like nothingness is not part of everything. This is a little obscure, I'm sorry. Everything is in opposition to nothing. And yet, this a phrase like this might be, philosophically interesting, but to us as practitioners, it's only valuable if we examine it as an actual experience, that this knowing that everything is functioning together to make this moment possible and happen. So, how can you be aware of everything? It's not really possible. Not in some conventional sense. You cannot be aware of everything. Because attention, the way attention functions is that it always excludes. If I'm aware of this, this stick, then the rest falls away. If you start noticing how your attention is working, it's like it just goes from one thing to one thing to one thing to one thing. It can be very quick, you know. It just keeps scurrying around from one thing to another. Much of what we're doing when we're sitting zazen is to get ourselves to become aware of how attention functions, and then you kind of want to wonder, it's like, how is this attention working from moment to moment? What happens when I stop getting pulled into something, this, that? If you start letting go of focus, of carving out one thing from everything, then you end up being aware of nothing in particular. To be aware of everything is to be aware of nothing in particular. Do you understand? Everything is a kind of nothingness because it's nothing in particular. It's no thing in particular. It's everything all at once and nothing in particular. I've said this many times, it's like the way you want to hold your eyes in zazen is to look at the whole field all at once. Don't focus on a point. If you're facing the wall, you know, it might be, because it's boring, you might be like, you know, you start to see something in the wall like this thing or a little shadow or something. Your mind can kind of like zero in on that. And I remember as a child when I was lying in bed, and this was like, I don't know, I remember these times when there's like, can't fall asleep. I have a twin sister, you know, when we were kids, she was, and we had a bunk bed and she was upstairs and I was downstairs, and there was like wooden boards above me. And I'm lying there and I'm looking. And my mind just wanted to see things in these like knots. I don't know, hours of seeing the same knots. It's like when people look up in the sky and see the clouds, they always want to see something in the clouds. Faces, dragons, all kinds of animals are up there. Because the mind wants to grasp something. It wants to take hold of something, make meaning, you know, give it some sense. Be entertained. Create a story. Understand something. In zazen, you let all of that go. And your mind and your gaze, you can do it through the eyes, your gaze becomes wide and you look at everything and nothing in particular. Just let it kind of like, this visual impression of everything, just let it kind of wash over you. Without this focusing and grasping. So the main thing we carve out from everything is the self. Me. I am here. The world is over there. This is like there's these concerns I have and that I need to take care of. And opinions. And fascinating ideas that are mine. Immediately when this differentiation between the self and others, the self and the world occurs, it's not everything and nothing in particular. It's already structured through this, what we call the self. In Zazen, when you bring attention to breathing and you allow this attention to merge with the sensations of breathing, get absorbed in them, you may, at times, feel like you're losing yourself in your breath. It's like, there's a shift in perspective. It's like, it doesn't feel like I'm breathing anymore. If you feel I'm breathing like this, I'm breathing like that, then you are still exerting a certain amount of control over your breath. It's like you want to breathe a certain way. This do nothing approach that I mentioned yesterday would be like, no, don't control your breath. Don't try to breathe deeply or particularly long or anything. You just let the breath come and go as it pleases. And as you're letting the breath come and go as it pleases, you lose yourself because you're not doing the breathing. The breath is doing the breathing. You know that. At night, you're not doing the breathing. The breath is doing the breathing. You're not required. In the relaxation of sleeping, the breath is doing the breathing. And in Zazen, hopefully the relaxation of Zazen, the breath is allowed to do its own breathing. And then you may have the feeling that you are being breathed rather than you're breathing. I have that feeling when I'm running sometimes. It's like the running is doing the running. It's just a wonderful feeling, Like, if you have any experience like this, it's like the sitting should be doing the sitting. It's like if not you are doing Zazen. Zazen is doing you. If you notice that you're doing the Zazen, do nothing. Stop. Just stop doing it. Doing. Yeah, just. Dogen says to study the Buddha way is to study the self. So you start with the self. You start with, this body-mind and its functions. What's going on, and then he says to study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self, next sentence, to forget the self is to be actualized by the 10,000 things. 10,000 things means everything. Forgetting the self is to be actualized by everything. Everything functioning together, making this moment, including the self, happen. Not that we have to believe Dogen, but there's a suggestion of how to enter into it. Forgetting the self is to be actualized by everything. To be actualized by everything is to forget the self. Everything is functioning together. Now, you're familiar with this kind of reasoning, Thich Nhat Hanh style. The lumberjack is in the paper, kind of thing. The sun is in the paper. I often think when I hear that, it's like, God, I've got to bring out a piece of paper. In the phrase that I'm suggesting to you is that everything is functioning together to create this moment. We already have this moment. What's participating in it? Now, for me, without my parents, this moment is not happening. I wouldn't be here. And it's true for all of you. Without our parents, this moment would not be here. Not this moment, you understand? Some other moment for some other person might be, but not this moment. It wouldn't be here with any of our parents missing. And without their ancestors, not happening. And without their ancestors, not happening. And without the dinosaurs dying, it wouldn't be happening. 70 million years ago or something. My son is in the dinosaur phase. I don't particularly like dinosaurs, and I thought it could pass me by, but it's not. It's happening. We've got dinosaurs at home now, and I mean figurines, and we watch educational videos about dinosaurs. And it's rather fascinating that these creatures lived for millions and dozens of hundreds of millions of years, and then disappeared. And without them, no mammals would have evolved the way they did. All right. Thank you, that asteroid or whatever, volcano, super volcano or asteroid, because without that, think about that, without that massive destruction, if this happened today, we would be thinking this is the end of the world. And it wasn't. Not at all was it the end of the world. In fact, this moment is made possible by it. And of course, all these crafts and technologies that humans have developed over millennia, they're all making this moment possible. Carpentry and cabinet making and weaving and gold mining. It's a gold thread in this fabric. Without the oil and gas industry, this moment would not arise the way it does. We're sitting in a heated room. Left-leaning people like to think that the oil and gas industry is so bad, but, we're entangled with it every minute of our life. You all came here in a car, I suppose. And on and on. Sometimes I think, I wouldn't be here without World War II. Not a chance. Germany starting this horrible war and losing it, and then divided between the Eastern and Western Bloc in West Germany, where I was born, being part of the Western Alliance and forming relationships with other Western European countries and protected by the United States. And there I am in the 90s taking advantage of a student exchange program and end up in America. Wouldn't have happened. Didn't happen to my grandparents. The most important thing is to know that everything functioning together is making this moment possible, is creating this moment. Everything functioning together. Now this functioning together is kind of an interesting conundrum. In the next months, in this practice period that is unfolding, I will be speaking about Dogen's fascicle Zenki. Happens to sound like my name. Half of it is my name. It's a different Zen. The key is the same. I'll speak about this title, Zenki. It's translated as total function or undivided activity. I like this word undivided a lot. Functioning together, that implies that things are separate and then they're coming together and function together. But if you say undivided, it's like they're not even separated from the beginning. They're not really separated. They're functioning in an undivided manner. This is an idea that is virtually not, you can virtually not grasp it. It's like in Zen it's expressed as it's not one and it's not two. If you try to make it one, there's no differentiation. If you say it's two, you've separated it, and how will it really come together? It's undivided. Everything is undivided. If you want to differentiate it, it's like it's a little forceful. It's like you pull something out from this undivided everything and give it some separateness, right? This is what we're doing with ourselves. Like we give ourselves some separateness. And we need to, otherwise we die. You understand, right? Your skin is the boundary between inside and outside, let's say, self and environment, and it simultaneously separates and connects. It keeps stuff out, and it also lets stuff in. And things move from the inside to the outside and from the outside to the... So there's a lot of connection, but there's also separation. And when the immune system detects things that are harmful to the organism, they get killed. So, but it's a kind of temporary, it's a very temporary separation from everything, from the undividedness of everything. And when we die, we kind of like dissolve back into this undividedness. Zazen is a little bit like, as you are unfocusing and ungrasping, like letting go of this habit of dividing the world, it's like you allow yourself to take a bath in undividedness. Emptiness is a word for that, Emptiness means this interdependence that we're talking about. And the change that arises from that interdependence. Because everything is, so interdependence means when this changes, that changes, right? So when something changes, everything is changing. Has to, because it's undivided. It's like imagine a water surface with waves, and one wave changes, and then the whole field of waves needs to adjust to that. But you never know where the change originates. There's not like a first beginning. It's just constant, interdependent change. This is called emptiness. So easy to misunderstand. This is what emptiness is. Things are empty in this way. Empty means you can't pin them down, you can't grasp them. They don't have a fixed entity. And what we call the self is it's the same way. So trying to grasp ourselves, what does that even mean? It's like define ourselves or know ourselves is impossible. The most important thing is to know that everything is functioning together to make this moment possible. Like, what kind of knowing is that? It cannot be a conceptual knowing. If it's a conceptual knowing, I'm talking like it could be a conceptual knowing. Sorry. When I'm done, we'll just go back to sitting. If you bring this idea of everything functioning together, if you bring it in front of you and start to look at it as if it's something that could be studied and understood or something, then you've already created a separation. This undivided functioning of everything, we know it through being it. You understand? you are that, understand. You are this undivided activity. I am this undivided activity. This moment. Why is it the most important thing? Is it that important? Isn't this just like philosophy or something, you know? Like another view of the world? My friend Gyodo Agostinelli, he's the spiritual grandson of Maizumi Roshi in that lineage. Maizumi Roshi started the Los Angeles Zen Center. And he reminded me recently that, or I kind of learned from him, you know, I've heard the phrase before, appreciate your life, but this phrase, appreciate your life, was Maizumi, according to Gyodo, was Maizumi Roshi's central teaching. Appreciate your life. Now, I want to kind of like in the context of this talk, I want to sort of replace your life with this moment. Because is there another time and place where your life is happening? It's like when you hear your life, just like when I say, when you hear this moment, you think a time unit, right? When you hear your life, you also think a time unit. It's like a lifespan. We can say that there's a lifespan, but it should come in, it's secondary. What's primary is this moment. When I speak about this moment in relationship to our life, I like to say aliveness. This aliveness, here now, is what's the most real. Appreciate this moment. Now, but let's hear this together. Appreciate your life, because if you think appreciate your life in terms of my lifespan, then you're carving out something very small from everything, which is like, oh, my life, I was born and I had this upbringing and it wasn't perfect and I have these issues and then I took this step and I have some regrets and this is my life's, and don't want to belittle it. This is like a big thing, right? It's our life, it's our biography. It's the story we're living. It matters to us. But still, it's really small. It's really small. And it's kind of claustrophobic, actually. It's like, now you've got to like do this right, and you did this wrong, and somebody's judging you, and so it's just like, it's very small. If you know that everything, the way I spoke about it, including the dinosaurs, those dead creatures, are coming together to make this moment possible, then appreciating your life becomes something very vast. I don't know if that's desirable. It's like maybe too much. But the conduct that flows from this knowing, which isn't a conceptual knowing, it's a kind of, well, it's a kind of appreciation, actually. Appreciation of being alive together with all beings and phenomena. How shall we, from the point of view of this knowing or this appreciation, how shall we use the time that is given to us? And I think this kind of appreciation is actually the source of the Bodhisattva vow of living for the benefit of all beings. Because to live for the benefit of this being that I call the self is small and claustrophobic and actually produces a sense of alienation. To live for the benefit of all beings, which is everything, right? I, because I'm the product of it, I arise from this big field, this infinite field. By living for the benefit of all beings, I greatly benefit. It's not just unselfish. It's like because everything is included, so to these virtues that are emphasized, generosity. Is because to keep giving yourself away, to keep using your energy to benefit all beings, is to just keep giving back to the field that produces you, giving back to the field, giving to the field that produces you, giving to the field that produces you. Just like that. Nothing special, especially altruistic, please. Oh, I'm doing this very virtuously. If I'm the recipient of this virtuous giving, I'm like, oh. We can just do it because we feel ourselves with a sense of appreciation as a field that keeps producing this moment, and so we just get drawn out into giving to this moment and this field. And then there's no alienation. And there's no meaninglessness. And there's freedom to move and splash around in this field of everything. It doesn't exclude the failures, and it doesn't exclude, as I've hinted at, right? It doesn't exclude destruction. It doesn't exclude death either. It's not something we need to struggle against. Yeah. So, let's appreciate our life.